Today I'm going to be covering the Waterman Edson Fountain Pen in detail. And ever since I first saw this pen back in 1998, it was one of those items that I just had to have. And I ended up by buying my first Waterman Edson back in 2002, and it was in fact the first expensive thing that I ever really bought. And this led to me collecting all kinds of fountain pens, ranging from Mont Blanc to Parker to Schaefer, and obviously some more Waterman fountain pens. Removing the cap of this pen and exposing the section, I must say, if you take a look at the section of this pen, it must definitely be one of the most beautiful nibs produced by anyone ever. I'm going to start off by covering the anatomy of the pen before I go into any detail. And I'm going to start off with the pen's cap. The cap of this pen is made of solid brass, which is gold plated. They used a special process which gave the gold plating a matte finish. What really makes this cap interesting is the clip. The clip is made of a solid piece of metal and doesn't actually flex itself like the clips on most other pens. The clip pivots around a pivot which is located towards the top of the cap, and there is a spring which runs longitudinally along the top section of the cap, which spring loads the clip. Okay, on the left hand side of the clip you've got the engraving which states France, being where the pen was made, and on the right hand side of the clip is the pen serial number, and in the case of this pen it's pen number 3850. And I'm just going to let you in on a little secret. The barrel and nib section of this pen is not the original barrel and nib which came with this cap. The original pen was dropped and damaged to a point where I had to acquire a new barrel and nib section. Okay, taking a look at the inside of the cap is fitted with a plastic liner which seals the pen when capped to prevent evaporation off the nib, and it also holds the nib section in place. Towards the top of the cap is a stainless steel screw. You won't be able to see it in this video, but that screw basically holds the spring-loaded structure on the top section of the cap in place. Okay, at the base of the cap, you've got a gold-plated ring which bears the Waterman logo on it. Now I'm going to cover the pen's nib section. This pen is fitted with a triangular-shaped solid 18-karat gold nib, behind which is a gold sculpture which elongates the nib from an aesthetic point of view. The section itself is constructed of a translucent blue epoxy resin which gives it a nice shimmering blue color, and behind the gold sculpture are three solid gold studs which are spring-loaded with supple steel springs, and they clip the cap of the pen in place when the pen is capped. Below the nib is a Bakelite structure which covers the bottom section of the compensator, and visible is a breather hole, and in front of that is a small engraving which shows what type of nib it is, and in the case of this pen it is a medium nib. Now I'm going to unscrew the barrel just to take a look at the back of the nib section. Okay, and just behind the nib section is a thin gold ring, and the purpose of this ring is to retain these three gold studs. It actually interlocks with the studs and gives them a little bit of freedom so that the spring loading allows them to move in slightly if depressed, and that allows the cap to be held in place. And I have removed one of these before, and I must say it's rather difficult to get all three studs back in place because they have to be held to a specific depth to interlock with the gold ring again. Behind the gold ring is a rubber washer which seals the barrel section off and also gives the pen a nice feel as you tighten the barrel on. It actually gives it a nice feel and seals it nicely, gives it a solid feel as you screw the barrel to the nib section. Okay, behind this is a brass, or should I say a gold-plated brass structure which holds the thread which interfaces the nib section with that of the barrel. Okay, the pen comes standard with a beautiful blue and gold colored ink converter, and this is what I use to ink this pen. I'm now going to cover the barrel. The barrel of this pen is rather special in that it is a multi-layered structure which has a almost electric blue, a deep blue translucent finish to it. I'm going to start off with the top section of the barrel, and this is a solid gold-plated brass structure which has the threads in it which interfaces it with the nib section of the pen. Okay, behind this brass structure, and it basically, I would say the brass structure takes about half of the barrel section, and over this is fitted a black plastic shroud. Okay. Now that black plastic shroud is separated from the outer section of the barrel, or the outer layer of the barrel, by a hairline space. Okay, and what that does is it allows the light to bounce around in such a way that it gives it that shimmering look. Okay, the outer layer of the barrel section is a acrylic resin, which is probably pretty similar to the resin that Montblanc uses to make their pens. But this barrel section is very, very different in that it is coated with a 5-layer, or should I say coated with 5 layers of a ultraviolet cured resin, which gives it a feel unlike any other. This barrel feels very similar to glass, but has the warmth of plastic. Towards the back of the barrel, in the case of this pen, it has finished off with a gold stud at the back. This was only introduced later on and was in the, I would say, the final run of these pens which Waterman manufactured. I happen to have 2 of these pens. One has this stud, the other one doesn't. As I mentioned earlier, in the past I happened to drop one of my Edson Fountain pens, and even though this was a rather unfortunate accident, it gave me an opportunity to take a look at the pen's internal structures. And I'm just going to take you through this photograph that I took when I dismantled the pen. On the left-hand side, you've got the blue and gold cartridge converter for the pen. And to the right of that, the barrel. To the right of that, the cap. And to the right of that, you've got the nib section with the nib and compensator removed. And to the right of that, you've got the compensator section. And as you can see, it's a rather intricate compensator that is used in this pen. And it has a great deal of length if you compare it to the compensators on most other pens. Also visible on the compensator, though not clearly visible in this picture, is the Bakelite structure, which sits directly under the nib section. And the purpose of this structure is to actually capture some of the ink. If any ink happens to overflow due to pressure changes, it is held by this structure. Directly below the section of the compensator which sits below the nib section are 2 cavities which are also used to hold ink. And just below the nib section, which will either be visible on this picture or I'll show in more detail later, are 2 little holes which allow this, you could say, excess ink to be fed to the nib. To the right of that is the nib for the pen. This picture gives you a rather close view of the section as well as the compensator and the nib for this pen. I'm going to cover the compensator in detail here. And taking a close look at the rear section of the compensator, you notice that the fins are rather closely spaced together. And the section of fins towards the front of the compensator have larger spacings between them. There is a separation between the 2 sets of fins, and this is the structure to which a special tar-like glue is applied in order to fit the compensator securely into the section. Taking a look at the front of the compensator, the section that fits just below the nib, clearly visible is one of the 2 holes, which is used to feed ink from 2 cavities which sit directly below to the nib. And the purpose of these cavities is to hold any excess ink that might bubble through the compensator due to pressure differentials. Okay, directly below that is a Bakelite structure, which carries the breather hole for the pen, as well as an engraving which depicts which type of nib the pen is fitted with. Here's a close-up of this pen's nib, And towards the front of the nib section is the iridium tip, which is used to deliver ink to the page. Behind that is the slit, and at the top of the slit you notice the little hole, and that is, the purpose of that little hole is to stop drill the slit so that it doesn't form a crack when the nib flexes. Okay, above that is the Waterman logo, and on the left hand side it says 18K for 18 karat and 750, meaning the 75% gold, which is 18 karat gold. Behind that section is the section which holds the nib into the section of the pen, and at the rear of this section is a square cutout which aligns the nib with the compensator. Also on this section of the pen are the two hallmarks for the gold that the nib is made of. This picture shows how the nib aligns with the compensator, and this concludes my review of the internal structures of this pen. I'm going to conclude this video by taking her for a quick test drive. For this demonstration I'm going to post the pen. And I'm going to start off by doodling. And as you can see, she has extremely good performance. Bit of a zigzag. And I'm going to sign my signature quickly. As you can see, this pen's performance is almost perfect. I would say that there are very few pens which can really compete with this pen when it comes to the way in which it writes. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found it informative.